We're going to start, though, with the best from the final day of the regular season. How about this young man? Good day to break records for Puka Nacua, Rams, Niners. Carson Wentz in as quarterback. I think Matthew Stafford the day off, and Wentz going to find Nacua end zone touchdown. This was in the first quarter, and that ties the NFL record for receiving yards by a rookie. Then in the third, Nacua, gain of 7. There it is. The record for receiving yards in a season by a rookie. That's for 63 years. Fourth reception of the day, most receptions. Let's just break all of the records. And then Sean McVay is like, okay, that's enough. Get him out of there. Let's go. Let's save him for next week because the Rams have to play the Lions and Puka gets to celebrate with mom. More on that matchup later.
Chiefs-Chargers, coming into this game, Chris Jones was half a sack away from hitting a $1.25 million incentive. He said he'd give Easton Stick some flowers, well, now he can afford the good ones. Now, he better include the chocolate for $6.99 as well.
A bottle of wine.
Look at him go crazy on the sideline.
A lot of money.
I guess that's what you look like when you earn $1.25 million. 10.5 sacks this season, Chiefs win. Tennessee runs out the clock. Jags missed the playoffs, 28-20, the final.
I think we have the potential to be a great team. We didn't finish the year that way. I think we were headed towards that halfway through the season, and for whatever reason, just didn't finish well. That's something we all got to look at, and individually, and say, what can I do better? That's how you get better as a team. And yeah, golly, it's super frustrating.
Still having a hard time processing it, honestly. It's all the work that we put in just to get to the playoffs, and now like trying to go, it sends us home, and have to go out there and look in the mirror. I feel like every man should look in the mirror, and I feel like I gotta look in the mirror and just find ways to continue to improve my game, get better, so that next year when we face with this same situation, that we're on the other side of it.
I know we're a good football team. I see it during the week and how the guys prepare, I got to look at why it doesn't show up on game day, and those are all things that I'll take a look at, in the coming weeks.
So we got to do a flashback to Week 12, and the Jags were set. They were 8-3, second in the AFC. Fast forward, and they missed the playoffs entirely. How'd it happen? Well, the offensive output dropped. Turnovers weren't forced as much, and a banged-up Lawrence down the stretch bounced the Jags for what looked like a promising season.
Well, it was Week 12, Tim, that the high ankle sprain happened with Trevor Lawrence. And then, of course, there was the shoulder injury along the way. But this was a team that looked so good up until that point. So how did it fall apart like the way it did?
Well, you're right. A lot of it, Nicole, has to do with the fact that Trevor Lawrence got banged up. And, I think sometimes, when we see somebody playing, we think, well, they're healthy enough to play. But the truth is it can affect how you perform. And I think that there's no question it did for Trevor Lawrence, which ultimately impacted the football team for sure. And then you just had elements where you just weren't right because of it. Now this one's Evan Ingram. This ball's right into his hands. And he gets tipped up and intercepted. Then you have a 2nd and 2 play. You got a wide open receiver. And this ball is not even in the right zip code, and it ends up being a turnover. And then no matter how badly you play throughout the entire game, you have a chance to maybe bring your team back to win it, and you got Calvin Ridley wide open, and you just don't connect. And so, part of, what's happened here is that Trevor Lawrence didn't play well in big moments down the stretch. And because of that, no matter how much talent people know that he has, and no matter how good people think that he can be, we're going to enter this next season with a lot of questions about, all right, is he the guy that we all thought that he was as a prospect? Can he lead a franchise, help everybody around him play well when things matter the most? Because that just did not happen this season.
Love. He's such a tough-minded sucker, says Matt LaFleur.
His ability to stay even keel, to battle through adversity, to lead our team. He did an outstanding job, and he's been doing it. I think he's certainly proved himself over the back half of the season. I don't think there's many questions left, to be honest with you. He's just got to continue to do what he's been doing and show up each and every day with that same mindset. And I think great things are in store for him.
All the work we do all off season, in the training camp, in the beginning of the season, and just like I said, everyone in the locker room sticking together. Blocking out all the outside noise, and just finding ways to, like I said, put ourselves in a great position to make a playoff run. But it's just, I feel like you said, all the work that we put in coming together right there.
Love was 27 of 32, 316 yards and 2 touchdowns in this one. But if you look back at the last 7 weeks, few quarterbacks have been better than Jordan Love. Top 5 in the league in completion percentage and touchdowns, a 16-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And of course, the Packers won 5 of their final 7 games.
All right, Tim, so Love has led the Packers back to the playoffs. What does he bring to next weekend's matchup as Green Bay heads to Dallas next weekend?
Well, he brings a hot streak of that graphic that we just saw. 16 touchdown passes and just 1 interception over that stretch. He's playing really good football. To play a game, this late in the season in those conditions and have the ball and hit the ground 5 times on 32 attempts is significant. He's really athletic. He's playing with a lot of confidence. And he's got receivers around him right now that I think are a nice surprise. Guys that are stepping up, guys like Jaden Reed, like Dontavian Wicks, like Tucker Kraft at the tight end position. I think they're a team right now that is clearly playing their best football. And because of that, and because of guys like Jaden Reed, I think their speed is going to show up in Dallas. And so I think this is a really interesting matchup for the Cowboys.
I mean, this is a team that was 3-6, and the offense kept on telling ESPN, we're close after week 10. Both beat down. The final is 27-10. Jason Kelce, you're the center, you're the leader of the team. What is happening?
Got our asses kicked. Hey, I mean, there's not much else other way to describe it. They beat us in every phase again. We just offensively, we did not handle the blitz well, obviously. It was very evident. And part of that's my job, which is beyond frustrating to put us in good situations. And, it's just, wasn't good across the board, and that made it difficult offensively in the first half. And so.
The Eagles were the best team in football record-wise over the first 12 weeks, but were exposed down the stretch, especially defensively. Philly allowed 30 points per game over the last 6 games of the season, dead last in the NFL. On to the postseason.
It's a bit baffling because Philly, obviously, they started the year 10-1. Then they lost 5 of their final 6 games. And unlike, let's say, the situation in Jacksonville where there were some injuries, it's not like the Eagles had major injuries. So how did this happen?
Well, I think there's a lot to this. One, you look at that the change defensively, I almost feel like they made it worse. They were sitting there at with a really good record, thinking they were dominant in the National Football League, and changing the defensive side of the ball. And then I think you also just look at their inability offensively. And look, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, those injuries I think are significant. I think A.J. Brown's the most important offensive player outside of Jalen Hurts in their offense, because when you have the fear of the quarterback running, you get one-on-one situations with A.J. Brown. He usually makes you pay. And I would just say this, when you hear Jason Kelce talk, this is a team that's going to the playoffs. They're like, I understand it's not how they wanted it to go, but when you lose as many games as they've lost, and when you were playing as well as they were, and to have this skid at the end of the season, they feel like a wounded football team. Like they sound like a team that's disappointed to be going to the playoffs, how they're going to it. And that, look, I think that could spell trouble down in Tampa, just with the morale of the football team in terms of where they're going. Then also, obviously, with what the injury situation is, especially for somebody like A.J. Brown.
Well, it obviously wasn't the most expected way to win it, but the Bills did win the AFC East for the 4th straight season. That is tied for the longest streak in franchise history, and it is the longest since the late 80s and early 90s.
You know this man on the screen, Tim Hasselbeck, joining us live on SportsCenter. Tim, what did you make of the Bills' game plan on the road to win the division?
Yeah, I thought they had a good plan. They've had a good plan, really this last month or so. I think the big thing, Max, that sticks out to me is just kind of how resilient the team was, because there were so many opportunities when you go back to the first half, turnovers in the red zone, that really could have set them back. They could have kind of folded at some of those moments, but they hung in there. And then even had some issues as they tried to close out the game, stopping the clock when Josh Allen goes out of bounds, not ending the football game, offensively because they don't get it on 4th and 1. So there were times that, it felt like things weren't going their way, but it seemed like the defense just found a way to kind of hang in there. And when they needed to play offensively or on special teams, they were able to come up with it. So I do think the way Sean McDermott talked about his football team and its resilience is pretty accurate.
It seems like Miami never had the ball in the second half. 21 minutes time of possession compared to the Bills. 38 minutes. That's unreal. So my next question for you is, the Dolphins' run game was a real factor in the first half of this one, and the Bills adjusted to take that strength away. What did you see from the Bills' defense in the second half?
Well, they made an adjustment, Max, because when you look at Miami and the way they run the football, they're creative, especially with their backfield action. They run a lot of this kind of misdirection looks. It's almost, really, it's new in the NFL. It's like a freeze action to get the linebackers flowing a certain way. Look at all the offensive linemen from Miami are moving to the right. Linebackers are moving left, and then they run a little flip, pin and pull to get to the perimeter, and they got fast backs in space. Well, you get to the second half, there was an adjustment. Basically, Buffalo had seen enough of it, and they started playing downhill on it and getting into the backfield and making plays. You see, it's just not the same type of reaction from the linebacker level players for Buffalo. And I think you have to credit Sean McDermott and his staff for having a response to something that was new and something that gave them a hard time in the first half, but they definitely had a different answer come the second half.
As explosive and talented as Miami is, they were held scoreless in the second half. That really tells you how well this Buffalo defense played.
Taylor Rapp is, though. Taylor Rapp does not play for the Dolphins, and Tua turns it over. And that is how the Bills hang on to win at 21-14. New on SportsCenter, the winning head coach.
Coach, AFC East champs, this has been a very long season for you guys, roller coaster season. What do you think about this moment right now?
Glory to God, man. It wouldn't be possible without him and these players and this staff. So resilient, man. That's what Buffalo is all about.
What did you think about today's performance? Obviously, second half, you guys found that momentum with the punt return.
Yeah, again, resilient. We weren't ourselves in the first half. We had opportunities. We just couldn't cash in and turn the ball over, in fact. So second half, more complete football game.
So because of this, now you get to host a game at home. How much does that mean to this Bills organization?
It's huge, man. 4 of these in a row, hard to do. I'm just so proud of everyone back home in the organization. Bills Mafia here that showed up, and back home, we can't wait to see you.
Quick one on the matchup. What do you think?
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
A lot of respect for that organization. We talk about a model organization run by great people, great head coach. We'll have our hands full.
It's going to be a great game. Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you, guys.
They played two-man, try to anticipate the throw, and that was the result.
So how long do you reflect on this game? I know you all shift to face Kansas City on Saturday, but how long do you reflect on this and just try to wipe it out and prepare for this tournament?
Well, we're going to have to come in tomorrow. We're going to have to watch the film, see things that we can get corrected, and then move on. It's a short week. We know that, and it's going to be a tough road game for us.
What was it, the second half? I think that's so different. You guys didn't have the opportunities. The time of possession was, in their favor. Kind of what was going on about the drives where drives were slow.
I think when you say opportunities that we didn't have, I think we did have opportunities. We just didn't make the best out of those opportunities when we had them. Missed throw, miscommunication on some plays. You just can't do that. And, you can't do that.
Dolphins lost, but the Bills won, and they won their 4th straight AFC East. New on SportsCenter, Josh Allen.
They've been working hard together. That's a really good team we just played. That's a great offense. Their quarterback's playing at an extremely high level, and they got some really dang good playmakers. So for our team to go out there and do that, it took all 3 phases tonight, and they were a huge part of it.
When you went into halftime after you left, maybe 21 points on the
field there. What was the mood as you went into that locker room?
The mood is we were beating ourselves, and I was beating us. And that's what it came down to. And, again, the turnovers in our own side of the field, those are never good, but resilient group. We kept our head down, kept working hard, and found a way to win.
So because of the win, the Bills get to go home. Tim, who is still with us, they get to go home and they get to host the Steelers. That is Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern. You can see that game on CBS. The Browns and the Texans. Texans hosting Saturday at 4:30. And sandwiched in between there, the Dolphins have to play at Kansas City. It's Saturday, 8 Eastern on Puka. When you look at these matchups next weekend, which one in the AFC has your interest most piqued?
The one that we never thought would happen, Nicole. You kidding me? The C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. I think a lot of people would have said, hey, look, they're one of the 3 worst teams in the National Football League coming into the season. They're hosting a playoff game. And oh, by the way, you look at, the Cleveland Browns, 4 different quarterbacks. Joe Flacco's the one leading them, not Deshaun Watson like many people thought. And to think the way they responded was just remarkable. So the fact that that is a playoff game, those 2 quarterbacks, those 2 organizations with where they were to where we are, like, you've got to be kidding me that that's what we're going to see. But they both earned it, and I think it'll be a fun one.
Okay, and then over in the NFC, we've got the Packers and the Cowboys, the Rams and the Lions. That game is Sunday. Packers-Cowboys, by the way, is Sunday afternoon. And then the Eagles and the Bucks. The Bucks, with that record, squeaking in, but they get to host the game because they won the division. Which one there are you looking at?
I mean, because the NFL clearly must be scripted, right? Like, it has to be scripted. For Matthew Stafford to have the career that he had in Detroit, but never win a playoff game in Detroit, to have an opportunity to win a playoff game in Detroit after the way their season started in Detroit. Like, I mean, and honestly, with what he's done throughout his career, how they're playing at this point, and then what we've seen from the Lions, quite honestly, and Jared Goff, and the fact that, look, many people looked at it and said, well, maybe Detroit won that trade with, the quarterback. So, yeah, that one is just wild because of the storylines and because I think we're going to see 2 really good offenses. But to think of the history in Detroit for Matthew Stafford and that opportunity, that one, I'm not going to be able to look away.